Hi there, how are you? This reading is for you if you are finding it difficult to get along with your family, and Christmas time is one of those times when you have to see them, and it's always very full of conflict and negative feelings. In this reading, I'm going to try and use the tarot to give you some guidance on your issue, and we're going to use the tool of ASMR to help create a relaxing atmosphere for you, to help you de-stress and wind down in the middle of this tumultuous time period of the year. If you enjoy these types of videos, if you like the tarot, if you like ASMR and psychology, I recommend that you subscribe to my channel to be notified about new videos. I would also appreciate if you liked this video and left a comment. And if you would like to support my channel, you can also book a reading with me. You can find the link to my website in the description box. So, why is it so difficult during Christmas or the holidays to use a more widely accepted term? Why is it so difficult to keep your cool, to remain grounded? What is it that happens when you see that relative, that family member that you might not be so close with? Maybe you don't speak that much normally throughout the year, but during Christmas time, it's kind of a necessity that you communicate with them. What is it that makes this process so difficult? And I'm asking you, so first and foremost, I would like you to ask yourself this question specifically. What is specifically, particularly difficult about this situation for you? And if you would like, you can leave a comment and let us know. Perhaps some other people watching this can relate. So just to give you a couple ideas as to what it could be, and my camera is all blurry, but it's focusing again. So to give you an idea of what it could potentially be, for many people, it's the lack of acceptance of their true self, their true authentic self. In certain families, it can be very dangerous to the operating mechanisms of the family system to be who you are. And so they suppress, as long as they have the power to, they will try to repress your personality, your unique expression of self. That typically happens during childhood to a lot of people. But thankfully, in adulthood, you have more of a sense of agency to represent yourself in healthy ways and to kind of resist the pressure to conform to the family unit's expectations. Another thing that can come up is being triggered. Oftentimes, these people who you are not really in day-to-day contact with, they don't really know you, and maybe they don't care as much about you as you would like to believe, or as it would be ideal. And they might not be very sensitive to what you want to talk about or what some of your trigger points are, and they might go ahead and walk all over those sensitivities or vulnerabilities that you might have. So that could be a problem. Or it could simply be the general toxicity. Maybe it's not even conflicts between you and other family members. Maybe it's their drama that they share with one another, that you are simply a spectator of, or you're triangulated into situations. Triangulation means that when there's a conflict between two people, there's often a psychological need to involve a third person to kind of redistribute the pressure, the psychic burden of the conflict, and also to use that person as a buffer, or as sort of a judge of the situation. It's a very unhealthy dynamic, and I see that very often with people who are just trying to stay out of it, but they are pulled into this crazy dynamic of confrontational, toxic environments. So which of the three do you think your problem is closest to? So just to recap, the first one was lack of acceptance for your authentic self. So people who you are forced to interact with, or not necessarily forced, but during Christmas or during the holidays, you might feel compelled to interact with them. So maybe they don't accept the true, real you. Or it could be that they don't respect your sensitivities. You get triggered. And the third is just the general toxicity of the environment that these people create. And you're kind of pulled into these sick dynamics, and you cannot escape it. So it could be a mixture of all these three different scenarios. It could be one specific one. I'm going to pull a card for each and give you some advice for each scenario, each version. If you think all three applies to your situation, then feel free to watch all three. So the first one, lack of authenticity, or lack of acceptance rather, of your authenticity. That's the first one. Number two, the triggering, what to do when the person or the persons that you are interacting with are not respecting your boundaries, your sensitivities. Okay. And the general toxicity, being pulled into other people's drama. All right. Let's see what we have got here. Number one, lack of acceptance of who you really are. We have the Justice card. Lack of respect for your triggers. We have the Ace of Wands. That was actually in reverse. I apologize. So Ace of Wands reversed. And finally, the general toxicity. We have the Empress. Okay. So let's start with when the people that you're interacting with do not accept you for who you are. Now, Justice, which is a major arcana card, is the card of spiritual necessities. There are certain laws, certain divine mechanisms and structures that are simply inevitably so. So it's not really a question of what you want or what you think should happen. It's sort of the law of the land when it comes to spirituality, that there are certain things that consequentially follow. And justice can be a double-edged sword. And it's interesting that, the sword symbology is being present here. I mean, it's not that interesting because it's a very common pattern or a common symbolic representation of the Justice card. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is that you cannot be any other way than what you are. Justice is saying that you are what you are. You are who you are. And even if you wanted to be something else, you could not be. At first glance or at first hearing, this might sound like a very obvious thing, but when you think about it, even your desires or your urges to fit in or to conform to some external expectations, if there have ever been any, they were simply who you were at that moment. And so justice is telling you that the people that you are interacting with and who you are in their context, it's a given. You are who you are, and they are who they are. And the biggest problem or the most pain comes from trying to change all that. To try and modify yourself or to try and modify them. Because change is only possible within very strict limitations. Change is possible, but it has to be self-governed. It has to come from your spiritual center. And if they want you to be someone that you are not, true essential change will never occur unless at your core you agree with the direction that they are suggesting that you should go towards. And even if, let's say that with respect to how they want you to be, maybe they want you to improve yourself, and maybe it's not even a malicious thing or not an ignorant thing on their part, but it's deeply rooted in who they think you should be or what they think is healthy or beneficial for you. Even if they are objectively or completely right about that, they could be right. Who knows? Even if they are, it's besides the point, because what justice is communicating here is that the cards have already been laid out. The path that you are walking on is your essence. And unless you want to change from within, unless you want to become a different person, it will never happen. And vice versa, their acceptance of who you are, who you truly are at your essence, will never happen. So I think this question of authenticity comes down to an acceptance of lack of possibility when it comes to change. Not a complete lack of possibility, but the recognition that there's very little room to change someone, whether it's you or someone else. It's a very difficult thing, and acceptance is basically letting your guard down, putting your weapons down and saying, I don't want to change you. So when you find that the people that you're interacting with are trying to change who you are, the best thing to do is to not try to change them. They will want to try to change you. They will want to push you in a direction that they think is important, and you will not be able to change that. So acceptance starts with you. Acceptance starts with you understanding that no matter what you do, no matter what you say, no matter how you behave, they will be who they are. And once that realization is formed, once you get to that point where you can accept that fact, that's where perhaps a relationship of sorts can start to form. Even if it doesn't go both ways, somebody has to start it. Somebody has to go first, and it might as well be you who starts the game of acceptance or the process of acceptance without too many expectations. Just go with it and see what happens. Okay, being triggered and people not caring about your triggers. We have the Ace of Wands in reverse. The Ace of Wands upright would indicate a boost of creativity, of self-expression, and just a high energy dynamic action or gesture of sorts. And when it's in reverse, that kind of possibility is taken away. So basically, when people are not respecting your boundaries in that sense, when they don't care about your sensitivities, they are essentially robbing themselves of you at your best. You when you are relaxed, when you have the relief of knowing that you are confident and that you're secure. They're simply missing the boat on that. So the Ace of Wands is suggesting that, in reverse, is suggesting that even your anger, if you're feeling compelled to show them your anger, which anger is an interesting force. It's a very creative force, often misplaced, often destructive, but nevertheless it can be very valuable, and it can be the fuel to your creative endeavors. So even if you express your anger at their transgressions, you're giving them something that they do not deserve. And I don't mean, it's not the same philosophical idea as saying, they you need to take the high road because you shouldn't be like them. It's not like that. It's like you should not be wasting this gift of anger, this gift of energy on them. Hold on to it. Seal your vessel. Seal your expression of anger or any other intense emotion or desire to act. Bottle it for the time being and release it and use it when it's most convenient for you, when there's a creative outlet for it. So that's the only way. You will, again, not be able to potentially hope or not be able to convince them to be more considerate. You might as well collect all that anger, all that rage, or all that angst and channel it into something beautiful when the time is right. But the time is not right. That's what the Ace of Wands reverse is saying. It's not the right time to express. And finally, the general toxicity. And we have the Empress here, another major arcana card. The Empress is the card of nourishing maternal energy. So this is an invitation to recognize, on the one hand, recognize that the situation might be way too intense. It might just be too much for you, and that's okay. This is asking you to be very gentle with yourself, and first and foremost, keep your attention on how things make you feel. So take care of yourself. But if you notice that you have a little bit of extra energy left, and this is completely up to you, and it requires some level of self-knowledge to be able to determine this. But if you're noticing that you have some extra energy left, that you are not completely destroyed by everything that's going on around you, you can try and nourish the people around you with some simple things. So the Empress is all about creating a context, an environment for others where they can flourish, where good things can grow. And so if you have the energy to notice some small things that you can do to redirect the energy of the situation in a more constructive direction, then this is something that you can do for yourself as long as that feels right. So that's very important, to be connected with your internal energy resources at this time. It might be that you no longer have the patience or the wherewithal to deal with any of this, in which case I believe removing yourself from the situation is the most gentle and most sensible thing to do, if possible. Otherwise, think about everyone around you as if they were a baby, and people who are complicated adults, within them there's always an infant that's been deprived or depraved. I'm not sure which word is right here, but an infant that's been neglected and is crying, and all the yelling, all the outbursts, all the nasty behaviors, they are an expression of some internal need from infancy that was not met at the time. And so if you have a little bit of time to baby those around you with some small things, like just a question that perhaps orients them towards their own feelings, that helps or fosters an environment where they can reconnect with their feelings. If you just make a cup of tea for someone who is upset at the time, or small things that you can think of that are not too energetically expensive for you, that can connect you with that maternal love within, that that can make you stronger, or make you feel like you have a purpose there. So in small incremental dosages, you can give a little bit of that. But I think most importantly, and I cannot emphasize this enough, you need to listen to yourself and how much you can take. You need to be very clear on that. Thank you everyone for watching this video. I wish you Merry Christmas if you celebrate Christmas, or happy holidays in general. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Give it a like, leave a comment. I always like reading your comments, or get a reading with me on my website. Thank you again. See you next time. Bye bye.